Long ago, in the sun-scorched lands east of the Jordan River, there ruled a king who was more than a man. He was a giant, a living mountain of muscle and might. His name was Og, king of Bashan. Now, Og wasn't a legend in the making, he already was one. Standing over 10 feet tall, his arms like tree trunks, his voice deep enough to shake stone walls, Og was the final echo of an ancient race, the Rephaim. These were the giants of old, warriors spoken of in hushed tones, feared by all. And Og, he was their last surviving king. Og's kingdom stretched across fortified cities, massive stone fortresses built to withstand war. He ruled with a brutal hand, his people protected by the mere sight of him. No one dared oppose him, no one ever tried. His enemies didn't challenge him, they ran. But Og wasn't just tall, he was prepared for war. His bed alone, made of solid iron, measured 13.5 feet long. A monstrous object preserved through history not just for its size, but for what it symbolized. A king who believed himself untouchable. In his mind, he was more than king. He was destiny. He was power incarnate. But then came a people no one expected. The Israelites, led not by a seasoned general, but by a prophet, Moses, a man raised in Pharaoh's palace, a man who once ran from Egypt, now leading millions across deserts, driven not by conquest, but by divine command. When word reached Og that this ragged tribe of former slaves was nearing Bashan, he laughed. "Let them come," he said. "Let them see what happens when dust meets steel." To Og, they were nothing, desert wanderers with no land, no armor, no giants of their own. They were a joke. But what Og didn't know was that this people was different. They had no champion, because God himself was their champion. Og prepared for war. He gathered his armies, stood tall upon his fortress walls, and waited. He did not flinch. After all, who could strike down a legend? And then the battle began. The earth shook, not from Og's steps, but from the roar of warriors who had seen the Red Sea part. They weren't afraid. They weren't running. They charged, eyes ablaze, not with anger, but with holy fire. Steel clashed, dust rose like smoke. Og roared and swung his club, crushing the ground where dozens once stood. But his strength wasn't enough, because he wasn't facing mortals. He was facing purpose. He was facing the will of the Almighty. And there, in the chaos of war, stood Moses, weathered, staff in hand, but filled with the authority of the Most High. The clash between heaven's command and earthly pride was over, and Og fell like a tree cut at the root. A sound echoed across the battlefield, a silence that only follows when something too big to fall finally does. The last of the Rephaim was no more. His iron bed, too heavy to destroy, was taken and preserved, not as a trophy, but as a warning. To all who would rise in arrogance, to all who forget that no matter how great the warrior, there is one greater still. People still speak of Og, but not because he ruled, not because he towered, but because of how he fell, not to the sword of a man, but to the word of a God. And that's the story of King Og, the last of the giants, a man too big to be beaten, until he faced the one he couldn't see, and discovered that even the tallest giants fall before the hand of the Lord.